Well, thank you guys so much for meeting with me today. I know that you're reaching out to start couples therapy. So, my name is Allison. I'll be your couples therapist. So, I know that Janet, you initially reached out to me for services. Mark, how are you feeling about starting couples therapy with Janet?
Um, Honestly, I am kind of reluctant to do so. I just feel
Mm-hmm.
like, um, I'm not, I, I'm being kind of pressured into this more by
Mm.
Janet, and yeah, honestly, not like super stoked to be here.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you being open with me about that and with Janet in the room to share that. I think it's really important to keep that in mind and really appreciate you still showing up to see how this goes. So we can just plan to have this one session and feel it out and take it from there. How does that sound?
Sounds
Sure.
good.
That sounds good?
Mhm.
Okay. So, like I said, my name's Allison. I'll be your guys' couple therapist. Janet, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I I'm Mexican. I'm 33,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't know. I guess like something about me. Like we've been together for 2 years.
Mm.
Um, and sorry, I brought like other notes to like
Oh, yeah, that's totally fine.
just in case like you asked me about myself. But
Yeah.
I grew up with like two parents that like struggled with like alcoholism and
Mm.
domestic violence. And like I would have to like help my parents out a lot, and I think that's like yeah, something that like we barely talk about. But,
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate you sharing a little bit of background about yourself with that. Mark, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was a teenager. It didn't really affect me too much. I was kind of, pretty good about my health and, kind of doing my daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my mom was great. Didn't really have father around the house, so
Mm.
kind of felt like my mom, really relied on me to kind of be the man of the
Mm.
house.
Mm-hmm.
And I had other siblings too, so I had to watch over them, kind of, parent them or help to parent them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of like a little bit about my upbringing and
Yeah,
kind of what my family life was like.
definitely. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. Janet, when you were introduced to Mark having diabetes, was that stressful or scary for you?
I would say because like I feel like I was the one like maintaining like my house basically because nothing was being like run or like I basically had to like grow up faster, so the idea of like taking care of like someone else like and like he doesn't like take care of himself like that just makes me like more anxious like you know
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you're just like pushing me to like do things like I want to do. Like I felt like I was always having like a pretty good routine, but like I don't know, just recently, it's been like kind of forced upon me.
yeah, I'm only forcing you because you don't do it.
Oh, okay. I can see that there's definitely some really big feelings around Mark's diabetic condition. So definitely in regards of caregiving, um, are there any other stressors with the diabetes, like how's finances or kind of managing that end? Is there stress around that?
Um, I mean, it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we spend a pretty decent amount of our combined, paycheck and just kind of our income,
Mm,
dealing with this. It's not cheap. Um,
yeah.
and so there's definitely, I would say, there's some stress around that for sure.
Yeah. Would you say that your guys' relationship has changed over time and gotten more stressful as the diabetic condition has gotten worse?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like we had plans to like start a family, like move in together, and like now I don't know if like he feels the same, but like I don't really feel like starting a family anymore. Like we've kind of talked about it already, but like it's not looking. We're not at a place where like we can,
I mean, I would like to, but it's just hard because this is kind of consuming my life, and I just feel like it's expensive, and I don't, what if our kids have, you know, diabetes, right? Like I don't want them to kind of experience what I'm experiencing. You know, that's not a world that I want to bring my kids into. So that's kind of a reservation of mine for sure.
And that makes sense. So what I'm hearing you guys saying is that, you know, with having type 1 diabetes, it's definitely been a stressor. It's been an issue. The finances are really stressful. And I hear that you are really wanting to help Mark take control over that, maybe cope with it better. And it kind of seems like you're having a lot of anxious energy around his diabetes. And then for you, it might be overwhelming of how much she's involved with your diabetic condition, and it's kind of making you pull away a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like you're kind of hounding me about it, you know, like before, you know, when I was growing up, like I felt like I had it under control, and you know, like I definitely, of course, appreciate you helping out, but it's almost like you're taking over, and that's, you know, there's some autonomy that I'm losing because I feel like you're taking over, you know.
So you think it'd be better if I wasn't helping?
I didn't say that. Don't put words in my mouth.
You see, this is what happens when we talk about it.
I want to have like a normal conversation with you about it, and I just feel like I can't do that if, you know, we're not willing to communicate about it, and I just don't feel like it's being reciprocated at all. So.
Well, I really appreciate both your guys' introductions to learn a little bit about your upbringing with having to navigate kind of being the peacekeeper in your household and kind of having to take care of everybody, and that kind of defining your role, and then for you to also be the one to take care of things, but it kind of put you in that position to have to only care for yourself too. So I completely see where you guys are both coming from with this issue, and we're going to talk about the issue a little more in depth. Again, I just want to thank you guys for sharing a little bit of your upbringings with me. It makes a little bit of sense of where some of your relationship problems are coming from. So I can see as your guys' relationship got closer and more intimate, I can see how these wounds from your childhood resurfaced. So like we said, with you being the peacekeeper in the family, feeling really anxious about controlling that dynamic, and then for you, Mark, kind of being the sole head of the house and trying to handle it all on your own, I can see how Janet's care feels a bit overwhelming for this situation. So it makes sense how it affected your development as adults today, and we see that through Janet kind of really wanting to control aspects of your diabetic condition. Janet, do you kind of see that connection from childhood to now?
Yeah, I guess I could, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so for example, you know, you mentioned having to help keep the peace with your parents, and you were doing that just so that, you know, they wouldn't like abandon you, and it induced a lot of anxiety for you to keep the household calm and collected. And so with Mark having this diabetic condition that, you know, it's type 1 diabetes, it can be life-threatening, so it is a serious chronic illness. I can see kind of like little Janet wanting to come in, keep the peace to make sure that Mark is functioning, and doing what he needs to do, you know, to essentially survive. And that whole process is kind of bringing out anxiety in you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I could see that, yeah.
I can see that too.
Yeah. And then for Mark, you know, I think because you had to navigate it on your own for so long, and you had a good routine in it too. And I feel like when you were independent, it felt a little easier to manage it. But now with, you know, Janet in the picture, it brings a lot more factors that it kind of like threatens your independence in a way and caring for yourself. Do you kind of see that too?
No, definitely. I mean, you know, that's all I know is, you know, kind of taking care of everything and everyone, and it's you know, it definitely feels like my independence, like I don't have that option when it's constantly being provided to me, you know, like I want to feel like I can, you know, do it on my own, but when it's done for me, you know, it's weird.
Yeah, and I feel, I don't know personally, but I feel to have a condition like diabetes, you know, you really want to feel in complete control over that for yourself. It'd be important for you to feel that way. That makes sense. Yeah, so kind of what I'm seeing is, we'll talk a little bit more about attachment styles and kind of what that looks like, what I'm kind of thinking might be going on. But for now, I mean, what kind of role do you think you play for Mark in this relationship dynamic?
Honestly, I feel like I'm like his mom, like most of the time. Like he's like I feel like I'm like nagging him a lot, but it's because like I have to, He like I feel like he's gonna like he doesn't care about himself and he just wants to like die. He's not even caring of himself like physically, so he's just gonna like leave me here and like he doesn't care.
But like I know how to take care of myself. Like I've been doing it since I was a teenager.
So why aren't you doing that now?
It just feels like you're kind of pushing this on me. Like you're almost by your actions. You're not like demonstrating that I know how to take care of myself, and it really feels like you like nag me, like you're on top of this, like you need me to do this. I need a schedule. I need a routine. Like I know, Janet. Okay, like I'm just it's a lot. Okay, and I don't know. I'm getting to a point where it's just becoming a lot.
Yeah, and let me just say that both of your frustrations here are valid, right? So with your frustration and wanting to have that autonomy and wanting to be recognized for being capable and competent, it makes a lot of sense why you're feeling frustrated, why you're feeling angry, why you're pushing Janet away. And I think that shows up a lot in your attachment to her because it's so overwhelming. So I want to start by validating that your experience in feeling frustrated with her, nagging and critiquing and trying to control your routine, that makes a lot of sense for you, okay? And then for Janet, I just hear that there's complete fear in losing Mark, not only as a partner, but as a person. So we all know that type 1 diabetes, it can get serious if you're not adhering to a strict diet, if you're not properly administering insulin. It can get scary really quickly. And I can totally see behind, like the nagging and the critiquing of Mark, that ultimately you want to keep Mark safe and that you want to provide for Mark and help take care of him. So I can see how it comes out in that way. So your experience is valid in just being afraid of losing him. So that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to look at my therapeutic notes for a moment. This all is coming together for me with the emotions that are presenting, and the underlying emotions are different forms of fear that you guys are experiencing here. So that makes sense. So like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about attachment, but for now, before we kind of get into how we're going to resolve this issue, I want to talk about coming up with some goals for therapy all together. So it's really important that we come up with these goals together as a team and we collaborate. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like the biggest goal would be navigating your diabetes as a team. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay, is that something that you both agree is kind of what we want to achieve in sessions together?
I think so.
I feel like that's the major problem.
Yeah. If you both could share, what would it, we can start with you, Janet. What would it look like to support Mark's well-being?
I think just, I don't know, like if he showed me that he was actually like putting like effort in like taking care of himself, like I would just be there for him, I guess, and not be nagging like he says, and like
so it kind of looks like to support Mark's well-being, like to maybe trust in him, that give him some time to show that he's going to put the work in, and then kind of reduce the nagging and maybe come more from that supportive, like being there for him. Yeah. And how would you say that you would support Janet's well-being?
I think just validating her and showing that that I do see you trying to help me, and I do appreciate you trying to help. So just kind of making sure you feel that I love you.
That's so sweet. Thank you guys. So in terms of physical well-being. I heard that Mark, to cope with the stress of everything, you've kind of been straying away from a healthy diet, you've been smoking tobacco. What would you recommend Mark kind of do to navigate and cope in a healthier way physically?
Maybe we could, I work out pretty like consistently. Like I wish that he would maybe like do something with me or like on his own time, and maybe not smoke so much, because I don't want it in the house. And we're gonna if we start a family one day, I wouldn't want that like smoking in our house,
Yeah. How would you feel about starting something small with Janet physically, like going for a walk together maybe after this session and making that like a night routine?
Yeah. I think I would be open to that, definitely. It would be nice to get back out there and just kind of, especially if you start small.
That's a great place to start with goals. So for now, we are going to work to be a team for Mark's diabetes, and we're going to validate you loving and caring Mark, caring for Mark.
No, yeah, I understand.
And now we're going to get into the intervention. Okay, you two. So how are you feeling in the session so far?
I'm feeling a little better. I feel like we understand like what's going on like a little deeper now.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm glad that we kind of established that understanding of both of your upbringings. We've established the roles that you both are playing in the issue at hand in managing Mark's diabetes, and we've talked a little bit about your attachment styles. So just from what you two have shared, it kind of sounds like you have an anxious attachment to Mark, and Mark, you have an avoidant attachment to Janet. And like I said, this makes sense. This does not mean that either of you are bad people or partners. This is just how we have developed from childhood to adulthood, right? So I'm happy to share a little bit about attachment in itself. So there's research by different researchers like John Bowlby or Mary Ainsworth, and they have tested out theories around attachment. And so we form our attachments in our early life experiences with our caregivers. So for you, that looks like with your parents having an unstable dynamic and being the peacekeeper. And then for you, Mark, that looks like you having the mom growing up, but she didn't really know or care to know about your diabetes. And that was really painful for you as a teenager navigating diabetes, and you had to grow to be self-sufficient and hyper-independent, right? So we kind of see Mark being hyper-independent, and we see Janet leaning in anxiously to try to fix things. So that's a little bit about attachment, and it influences the way that we show up in relationships, how we behave, think, and act, right? So one thing that I would like to work towards over the course of our treatments is to establish a more secure attachment with each other. So that would look like, to be secure with each other, Janet, you would not be as engaged in critiquing Mark or handling all of his diabetic needs. And then that would look like, Mark, for you to lean in a little bit to Janet's vulnerable side and also accept help sometimes if you need it. Because it kind of sounds like, with the stress of everything, the routine's gone a little bit off the rails. And it can be helpful for Janet to kind of provide reminders and do things of that sort, So I think it'll be important to see how we can work together as a team. I know that things feel a little lopsided right now, but we'll talk about the therapy that I provide and how I intend to guide you guys through this. So what we're all here for is to go through something called emotionally focused therapy. So this is a modality of therapy that builds a secure attachment between partners. So that would look like restructuring your emotional bonds with each other by making you guys both accessible to each other, making you responsive to each other's needs, and also engaged in whatever the presenting issue might be, right? So we're gonna move you two away from these destructive conflict cycles, like where it kind of goes of a cycle of Janet's anxious, overwhelmed, Mark gets anxious and overwhelmed, and it's kind of like chasing each other. So we're going to want to work to have some more vulnerable conversations. We want to foster that safety and emotional closeness with you guys. And we do that through 3 main stages. So the first one is de-escalation. So that's de-escalating the negative cycle. Then we're going to go into restructuring the bond between you two and consolidate. So we're not going to have time in this first session to go through everything, but I do want to introduce these principles if you guys are okay with that. Okay, sounds good. So in step 1, there's something called the dance that you guys are doing in emotionally focused therapy. So it's kind of like you two are doing different dances. So you guys have your dance in the relationship. So I really want to help you guys recognize the repetitive negative interaction patterns that you guys have, which right now it looks like pursue and withdraw. So Janet is pursuing and you, Mark, are withdrawing. So that's kind of the dance that we see happening here. And we want the dance to be more kind of like a tango where you're coming together, you're stepping together and flowing, and there isn't that pursue or withdraw. So then also with the problem that you guys are presenting with. So I know, Janet, you initially came in with the problem being Mark not adhering to the diabetic condition, but Mark's problem is that, you're the problem by over handling his diabetic condition. So we definitely want to shift the focus from it being that one of you is the problem to the cycle of the pursuing and withdraw is the actual problem that's going on in the relationship, right? So you both are doing the best you can as partners, and we want to try to highlight that. And then we would look at uncovering some vulnerable emotions. So we already did a little bit with what you guys have shared with me so far, which I'm really grateful that we got to explore that a little bit. So we discovered that the surface emotions were anger, frustration, but underneath it was really, fear of different things, which could look like sadness, grief, loss of identity, loss of person. So these things are fueling the anger that's going on in your guys' relationship, right? So that's more step 1, which we kind of already got to. For step 2, which is restructuring your guys' bond, again, this is something we'll do over time, but there are a few exercises that we can do right now if you guys are open to that.
Sure.
Okay. So I know that you guys have different attachment styles. So one aspect would be about identifying your attachment needs. So that would look like having you both express your core attachment needs, such as a desire for reassurance, comfort, or validation. So, Janet, when you are nagging Mark about his diabetes, do you think you're needing, reassurance that he can handle it and that he'll get those things done?
Yeah, I just want reassurance that he's taking care of himself, like I don't want to lose him. I'm scared of losing him, so I just want him to be okay,
Yeah, definitely. And in doing and receiving that reassurance, it almost kind of takes the pressure off of you to feel the need to go to him and do that. Okay. And Mark, for you, what kind of needs do you have in having that more avoidant attachment, you think, from Janet?
I feel like I need you to or I need to feel like I am able to take care of myself. I want to be able to I love that you help me out, but I need to know that I can take care of myself if it ever came down to it, right? So yeah.
So it kind of sounds like also needing that reassurance from Janet that you can handle all these things without her anxiety. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And instead of maybe feeling the need to pull away, what might you need from Janet to come in a little closer to her?
Maybe just support in instead of maybe telling me to do something, just knowing and being there for me, knowing that I can do it myself, and just kind of believing in me.
Yeah, that's really great, you guys. So different aspects about restructuring the bond. So we've already kind of identified these attachment needs going on for you guys. Some other ones could look like facilitating bonding conversations where you come together and share your vulnerabilities. We might want to like soften the pursuer. So that could look like expressing more vulnerability rather than the anger. So I know you guys have done a good job already in kind of validating where the other is coming from. So then there are other aspects of restructuring your bond, such as enactment. So this looks like having you two share emotions directly, foster some real-time emotional connection, and make some new positive experiences. So if you could share, and I know you both are sharing what you need to see out of each other, but what do you two maybe want, like in a conversation? For example, like what would make you feel good to do with Janet other than have her like nag you?
Maybe be there next to me, like while I'm doing it myself, right? Like if I need to, do my dose, maybe instead of doing it for me, kind of just sit next to me.
Yeah, and maybe even make it like a positive experience, right? Where maybe you're doing something fun afterwards or before. Yeah. What about for you, if you could tell Mark directly, like what a positive new experience could be for the two of you to do together?
I think I feel like what we said before, like I do want us to start a family.
Yeah.
I think like talking in a positive way about our future would be something nice.
Absolutely. What if you could share one sentence to Mark about a future? Like what would that look like?
I don't know. I want to start a family with you. I want to have kids with you.
Yeah. Mark, how does that statement make you feel?
It makes me feel loved.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Definitely. Okay. So we'll be able to do more of these things as time goes on, but the last aspect of therapy, as we're hitting time today, is to consolidate these new patterns. So we want to reinforce these new patterns. I really want to reinforce these positive conversations, positive aspirations for the future together. I really like hearing you vocalize that you feel loved by Janet. I think it's super important to acknowledge the positive experiences that you are having. So we definitely want to reinforce that. And I want to help you guys build a new story of your relationship that is focused on safety, trust, and having security together. So I'm really proud of where we have come today. And I look forward to meeting with you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.